My initial question to you was going to be, with all these rumblings about him being allowed to talk to other teams and things like that, is this going to be smoke, fire, or a false alarm? I believe we're getting news as we're live on the show here that there's a team release that Don Waddell is stepping down as Hurricanes GM. Eric Tulsky is going to apparently be the replacement. Am I getting this correct?
You're getting it partially correct. So
Okay.
the Canes did just put out a press release saying, and I'm tweeting it right now, that Don Waddell has stepped down and Eric Tulsky takes over as the interim GM. But I believe that so they acknowledge in the press release that a full search has begun for a permanent general manager. I believe that search will include lots of external candidates. So I believe they've begun that process of trying to contact teams around the league. This is a parting of the ways that I think maybe the best way to describe it is, even though this team has had a ton of success, I don't think there's any animosity here. I think both Don Waddell and Tom Dundon, the owner, kind of arrived at this point and were like, hey, there's probably things on both ends of this that frustrate us. And, maybe it's best to just shake hands and move on. Don Waddell didn't have a contract for next season, was managing into the last year of his deal. That deal goes until June 30th. Obviously, they let him go 5 weeks early to pursue other potential opportunities, which could include Columbus, as he did interview with the Blue Jackets yesterday for their vacancy. But this was a situation that I think the Canes, sort of were like, okay, changes are coming, not just with our roster, but, maybe also time to make some other changes too.
So Don Waddell leaving the Canes after 10 years in that position. He's 65 years old, but again, he said in his in the release that it's time for the next chapter in his career. You just said he interviewed with Columbus yesterday. So this isn't Don Waddell riding off into the sunset. This is a guy who is still fiery and still wants to continue running a hockey team. And I would imagine, Frank, Columbus amongst others. He's going to be a well sought after name.
Yeah, but right now there's only one apparent vacancy unless there's something else happening. And the other part too is, this is just speculation on my part, is that the rumors with Ken Holland leaving the Edmonton Oilers and linking him to Columbus, those certainly haven't died. The dot that I wanted to connect is Don Waddell and Ken Holland are pretty close. Wouldn't shock me at all to see those two guys team up at some point to work together, potentially in Columbus. That could make a lot of sense. And the other part of this equation is, what does all of this mean for Eric Tulsky? He is the interim GM, and he's going to be assisted by Darren York in the meantime, the other assistant GM. But will they make him the permanent GM? That means something. That's a really important question for the Carolina Hurricanes to answer, because my thought process would be, if not Eric Tulsky now, then when? And if that's not the case now, then are the Hurricanes prepared to lose him? I think that's a really important and fair question to ask.
If you want to hear one of the most fascinating hockey interviews, honestly, that I've ever heard, when you and Gregor sat down with him for the DFO rundown, Eric Tulsky, that is, and it was a number of years ago now. I think it was maybe 18 months ago. That was really good. His path through just his career outside of hockey, and then to link it all back to hockey, he is a fascinating individual. The Carolina Hurricanes summer also just got a lot more interesting.
It has, and that was a great pod. But there's also, I think I did another one separately with Eric Tulsky after the fact, that there's no shortage of interesting content around him.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.